Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another live edition of Mic'd Up Sports, the show that goes in depth with the people who build our sports community. If you're joining us live on Facebook, we're glad you can take part. Feel free to drop a comment on the live stream and we just might read it on the air. And if you're watching this on demand through our YouTube channel, we're glad you're watching us there as well. Joining me is one of the veterans now at Minnehaha Academy girls basketball, and the most recent state tournament champion in Class 2A, because we didn't have a state tournament. I should say we weren't able to complete it due to the coronavirus pandemic. So whether or not Telia Graham is a defending champion, minutia in the grand scheme of things, but we're glad she can join us. Telia, thanks for coming on. And I want to get your thoughts this week. Games will resume. Of course, we're still trying to navigate this pandemic. So there's a lot going on compared to what you're accustomed to when the start of the season approaches. How are you handling this?
I'm just trying to keep an open mind. I'm really happy that we're even having a season because nobody was really planning on it. And we're kind of just having we couldn't have any get-togethers, nothing like that. So it's really cool that we're even having a season. Of course, it's not great that we have to play with our mask on, but it's required, and at least we get to play. So that's all I'm happy about.
You brought up a point, and that's been a point of contention among some parents and other individuals having to play with masks. That is one of the requirements in place with basketball, hockey, and other winter sports. You've had a week to practice with the masks on. How have you adapted to it?
It's definitely got a lot easier once you just keep practicing with it on. Sometimes I don't even notice that I even have the mask on unless it falls down. That's the only downside, because unless you're using a thicker mask, those are pretty hard to breathe through. But I've been just using the surgeon mask, and it's been pretty easy. It's not been that bad.
I've worn the surgical masks myself when I went out on assignment last summer, last fall, and I covered a soccer doubleheader with the mask on. You do notice it a little bit when it comes to play-by-play, but if that's what is required, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to protest, or as I put it, I'm one of those guys that works with what I have rather than rant about what I don't. And on top of that, there is a limit on attendance. I know each school is different. Up to 150, I believe, can be allowed based on the most recent guidelines. But when you get ready to start up this week, I think your first game is on the road, but knowing that your home games are going to look a little different than what you're used to, what is that going to be like?
I know we're each player is allowed two basically tickets, so your parent and somebody else can come. So it's going to be definitely more small, but at least we're getting people coming, your parents can come. So we'll have people there instead of just having no one. So that's just going to be a plus side.
I know the toughest part for me is not being able to cover as many games as I would like, but considering that we're closer to a vaccine, I can live with it. It's going to suck having to sit at home more often than I'm used to, but I understand why these precautions are taking place. That being said, what are your plans? What is your approach for this season? Because your Red Hawks team reloaded in a sense.
Yeah.
Ania Rubin is eligible to play this year. And then you also got Addie Mack from Blake and Sharita Lewis from St. Cloud Tech. Unfortunately, Sharita tore her ACL, so she will not be able to play this winter. But when it comes to off-season moves, I would think Minnehaha was one of the biggest winners after you graduated a strong core of seniors in Mia Curtis and Kate Pryor and Tana Gallo. And now you've got the leading scorer from Blake and one of the best seventh graders, one of the best players in the state, regardless of grade, and Sharita Lewis, an equally prolific scorer. in St. Cloud Tech. She'll be there for a couple more years. I'm thinking this Redhawks team, they're going to be just as fun to watch as they have been for the last few years.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely going to be way different just because we have a lot younger people. And I'm definitely not used to being like the oldest one on the team, especially because I'm the captain this year. It's very different, like going up in that leader role, but it's definitely going to be fun, just like how practice has been going this past week. We have a lot of energy and we're really fast, so that's really going to help us.
What was your reaction when you found out about all of the transfers coming in, that one of your conference rivals who gave you fits when I looked at some of the video last year in Addie Mack, and then another top scorer in Sharita Lewis? She's a player that can put moves on defenders. When you found out those two were going to join your program, what did you make of it?
I'm definitely glad that we have them on our team just because how good they are. And it's just a plus that they're amazing teammates and they're like team players and they'll work with you and they have questions to ask. So it's just amazing that we got to get them on our team.
And on a more personal note, I imagine you, your coaches, and everyone else at Minnehaha is glad that they don't have to go against Addie Mack this time.
Yeah.
If you don't mind talking about that, she came on the scene as a 7th grader, probably could have joined earlier if eligibility rules allowed it. But I covered her at a game toward the end of last season. And in my head, I'm going, how is she a 7th grader? She played with more polish than I've seen out of any 7th grader that I've covered throughout my basketball coverage. Usually when you enter varsity as a 7th grader, you can tell there's some potential, but there's a lot of raw, undiscovered, untapped talent. They're still trying to grow into their bodies and make sense of everything. Addie, I know she played well against you last year in the conference series, and she was leading their team in scoring and putting moves that I would see juniors and seniors make on a regular basis.
Playing her, I definitely didn't even know that she was like a 6th grader last year.
7th grader,
7th grader last year. So it was like really crazy to see like how good she was and like how well her skills were developed. And we almost lost to them. So she basically almost beat us, having that like we didn't keep scoring because we had like a lot of turnovers that game. But it's really crazy like how well her skill level is developed and like her vision is.
Was that one of those moments when you played her that made you and the rest of your team feel really old?
I would say kind of, because she's like the shortest one on her team and she's literally scoring the most points and we couldn't really. It was pretty hard to stop.
Well, now this time around, she'll be on your team. So now you can say good luck trying to stop her. And of course, a lot of other notable names coming back too. You have a lineage of athletic history in your family. Your father, of course, a standout at Minneapolis Washburn, played Division I at Boston. So this may seem like a silly question given the context, but for you, what was the first time, the first moment or memory that got you hooked into the sport of basketball?
I would say playing. It was like basically like boys and girls club basketball. Like it's like a mix of girls and boys. And I just remember just being like the only girl there, and the coach was like super harsh. Like we would do like wall sits, we would get yelled at, we would run. But it was definitely fun because I got to play with my older cousin who was a boy. It was definitely just a fun time for me, and I just always kept playing. And that was just the only sport I grew up playing, and it was just what I grew to love.
And if you don't mind, I mentioned your father's history with basketball in particular. Was there any other involvement in your family when it came to sports?
Definitely. Like I think my whole family played a sport, played basketball or something. definitely on my dad's side, everybody's pretty tall and everything. So everybody played a sport. So we all connect really well when it comes to sports and basketball.
Well, you're not exactly short yourself there, Talia.
Yeah.
And all joking aside, how have you grown into that over the years? Because I've had some taller players on this podcast, and sometimes we talk about the awkwardness that comes with being 6 feet or above, finding clothes or shoes that would fit. I don't know if that's something you've experienced, but how have you grown into your body and identity over the years?
It's definitely been really hard because I would say during my seventh grade years when I hit my growth spurt, so I was like taller than like the younger and the older people. Um, I would say, yeah, it was hard to find like clothes to fit me because I was pretty tall. So everything was really capris on me for jeans and stuff like that and shirts. But growing, you just like, you got to learn how your body moves and like what you like and what you don't like. And that's just what comes with growing up. So I think I've learned a lot just from my dad too and how tall he is. So it's just like growing into your body.
I remember meeting him last year, and yes, he is pretty tall, but at the same time, I covered the WNBA for 10 years. I've covered basketball for just about half my life now. And so I'm used to looking up at our talented, athletic men and women who are not only great athletes, but future leaders in just about every case that I've met. I imagine your search for clothes and other apparel, has that gotten easier over time?
It definitely has. I feel like there's a lot more like athlete clothes to wear coming out and stuff like that just because of like development over time and just like clothing. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it's definitely been easier.
Who would you say were your idols growing up as you took up the sport of basketball, whether it was your family or players you watched in the NBA, WNBA, college? You can take this however you'd like, but who were the people you wanted to be like when you grew up or when you were growing up?
Um, well, who I watched growing up was definitely just LeBron um, in like 2009. That was like the only person I really watched in the NBA because he was like the only person I really knew, to be honest. Like I was only like 6 or 7, but he was just, he was really the only player I knew. So it was really just fun always watching him. And on holidays, going over my dad's, always watching like the Christmas games. So I was just really always watching basketball growing up, even though I didn't really know who the players were that well.
And how did you come to terms with your father's history as you got to learn more about him and what he did? As you were saying, he made a name for himself at Washburn. An old friend of mine found some archive footage of his, and I was a little young, so a little young to really understand the significance of players like him and so many others from the 90s. But when you discovered his history with the sport, how did that fuel your aspirations?
Definitely. He he yesterday he actually made me watch like his high school games just to like prepare for this interview. He's so I don't know. He knew you're gonna ask questions about him, so he made me watch some high school games. But definitely, we just watching him. We play kind of similar. Like um, growing when he was like playing, he wasn't always like the leading scorer until like his senior year. So he always tells me to like, the way I got my points is like rebounds, like cleaning up people's shots. And that's like kind of what I did the past 2 years in my high school career, like playing with like Mia and everybody and being like the youngest on the team. My biggest role was like rebounding and defense. And it's just crazy how like similar we play, even though I'm not like his height and his build, but like I'm still kind of tall. So we still kind of play kind of similar. And when I was younger, I always just remembered like looking up stuff about him sometimes and like watching a little stuff and like having like his little picture in my room about when he was at Boston College. So it was definitely just an inspiration looking up to him and where I wanted to go forward playing basketball.
Sounds like his ESP has been in the works too over the last few months. If he suspected that I would bring him up, I suppose it's not much of a stretch because I know about your history.
Yeah.
I guess your father's like me in the sense I had no idea who he was until this friend of mine shared clips. We had talked beforehand, but he's one of those guys, and most parents that I've talked to are like this. They don't like talking about themselves all that much when they're
Yeah.
at games because they want to support their kids. But once I figured that out, it's like, oh, that's cool. But it is, and it just goes to show you how these generations continue to influence us long after their playing days. What led you to Minnehaha Academy?
Um, it's definitely basketball, of course. It was Coach Pryor's first year, and I was kind of just picking out like what I want to do for high school because it was definitely basketball based where I wanted to go, and definitely like education based. And Minnehaha was like the best education, best basketball. So I was just like, well, I'll go there. It was kind of just like, well, I talked to Pryor and we had like a family meeting, and he kind of just got his point across. He watched me during the summer, and I was just like, I felt like I wanted to go there, like not just for basketball, but obviously I knew people there, and it was going to be easier to adapt to just going to a new school because I knew I was going to go to a new school either way.
Well, Minnehaha definitely synonymous with basketball when you look at what the boys team has done, the girls team. They had won a state championship years prior, but you came in this period of transition. The school was still being rebuilt after the explosion that took place at the original campus. So if I'm correct, you had to spend that first season at another building before moving back?
Yeah, we spent it at this building in Mendota Heights my freshman year.
And by the time you suited up, you were at least able to play your home games at the Bergstrom court. So the campus
Yeah.
was on its way to getting restored. But what did you make of that first season or that first year as a student athlete where your practices and your classes weren't in the same building? You had to do some commuting to accomplish what you needed to.
It was definitely different, like having to drive to a whole nother place to go to practice each day and like driving to games each day instead of just like already being at the school. But like we all pretty adapted pretty well, and we knew what we had to do, and everybody knew, like after school, everybody hurry up, get in your cars, let's go to practice. So it was just kind of just like everyday thing once you just keep going.
And at least one of my viewers who's dropping some comments. One by the name of Jeffrey concurs, or at least said about when you're talking about your coach Matt Pryor. He said amazing coach, and I guess I can't argue against his credentials at Concordia. Then winning a state championship his first season at Minnehaha. Well, thanks for the remarks, Jeffrey. And for you, Talia, how many other schools were you considering before you committed to play high school ball at Minnehaha?
I was considering a couple. I visited De La Salle. Um, Before that, I was playing JV at Sibley, so like people wanted me to go there too. Um, I was just keeping my options open at the time, just like where I wanted to fit in, and like from a basketball point where I would fit in too. And just Minnehaha was the best place for me.
And you mentioned De La Salle as one of your options. So it sounded like, at least from what you're saying, you wanted to be a stellar athlete. You wanted to go to a school that you knew would help develop you as an athlete, but it sounds like you also were considering schools with faith-based educations. Minnehaha and De La Salle certainly fit the bill. What does that mean for you? How do you think going to schools that have an emphasis on athletics, academics, but in your case, it includes a faith-based education, how has that strengthened you over the years?
I've definitely grew up going to like private school and faith-based Christian schools. So it was kind of normal for me. It wasn't really out of the norm to like, go to chapel and like learn about God and go to Bible class. But that's kind of what I grew up doing. And that was like my faith background already. So we kind of knew that we wanted to keep going forward with a faith education. And like I was totally fine with that.
We have another comment directed at you, Talia, from Natural Ray. I don't know if that is her name, but that's what I'm seeing on the live stream. So I'm going to go with it. And she says, Talia is a stellar athlete. Her future is bright. Do you concur with this assessment?
Yeah, I do.
Well, thanks for the comment there, Natural. And as I said before, if you're watching this live, feel free to drop your comments as we continue this live stream. So your freshman season, no one really knew what to expect. New coach, Josh Thoreau, had been the coach and the AD for several years at Minnehaha, and he still is the AD. He's put in a lot of work and a lot of support with that school. And one of his proteges comes in after coaching at Concordia. The two had met in the section final. You may be aware of this the year before. And then Josh contacted Matt and said, it's time to come home. Obviously, we saw how that has played out, but you come in, you're making this transition with a new coaching staff and some new philosophies. What would you make of your freshman season where you have a new coaching regime working its way into the program?
My freshman year was definitely a big experimental year for like the whole basketball season, but I definitely like learned a lot that year and learned a lot about myself and about basketball. It was just kind of like my big growing year, I would say, because I really didn't know that much about the game. I've played for years, but not at that level and not at that with that talent. So it was definitely a big learning year, big growth for me, developing my skills and like what I want to work on throughout the years of my high school career and what I wanted to do to get better.
How did you handle that adjustment? You're talking about not playing or not being used to playing at a high level program, and Minnehaha is one of them. They make the state tournament almost every year. How long did it take for you to adapt to that environment?
I definitely would say like a couple weeks or a month or two, just like getting to know people and how they play the game and like where your role is with the team. So it definitely took me a while to come up out of my shell and like get to know the players and get to know everybody. But once like we all had like a good understanding about how our team will go, like it was pretty straightforward from there.
And in that freshman season, it's not like you had to jump into the fire all by yourself. You had the aforementioned Mia Curtis, Kate Pryor, Tana Gallo. You also had a solid group of seniors that year in Tatum Rhodes, Nevaeh Galloway, Avery New. How did those veterans, how did they help you get adjusted?
They definitely, all of them are great leaders, especially Mia and Nevaeh. I knew Nevaeh prior to going to Minnehaha, so it was fun just playing with her and playing with everybody. And they're the type of people that will talk to you, and even if like they don't know you that well, like they'll come up to you and be like, "Oh, if you have questions, you can always come to them." So it was just a pretty easy transition. Like if I needed anything I know I could go to them and I could talk to them.
And I will tell you, Talia, that philosophy extends to their families, because you might have heard of this. For at least a couple of years, Mia's stepfather, he would introduce himself to me at games, and then we found out we both were twins games, but I did not know his name for about a couple of years. And I didn't find out until one of his work buddies at Target Field for Twins games told me, and I'm like, so that's who he is. So I know what you're saying. Like, it's a friendly group, and I find myself striking up chats with just about all of them. That's why when I show up early, I know I'm part of it's going to be just me making the rounds. So I would agree with you, Talia. It is a close knit group. In that freshman season, you didn't score a lot, but you played well. You went 25-6. You had a big winning streak. In fact, I think you ended up winning something along the lines of 20 out of your last 21 games. You started the season 5-3, or something along those 3-5. That's what I meant. I got myself mixed up. And then you go 22-1 to end the season, including that state tournament run. When did you sense that this Minnehaha team that was in the conversation, some weren't sure if they could make it all the way, but when did you sense that this team could make a deep run?
I definitely would say, after when we played Concordia the first time that year, that was a really big, exciting game. And even before that, talking about the state tournament and our goals for the year, we always set goals for the year. And our goal that year was to beat Concordia and win a state championship. And I definitely believe all the players believed that, and so did I. So it was just kind of just working towards that. And once it got closer and closer, and it just like it was, I already knew that we had a big chance of winning because I just felt it. Like I wasn't really second guessing it, and nobody really else was second guessing it. We really worked hard towards winning, and we did just that.
You did, although Concordia Academy didn't make it easy that second time. You were able to squeak out the win. Yvonne Tensai hit a late 3 at the end. But take us through that state tournament run. You didn't put in a lot of points that year, but what I'll never forget is how Minnehaha won the whole thing with their top player, one of them anyway, Mia Curtis, fouling out with about 8 minutes to go. So one of your scorers and your sharpshooters, a huge threat from 3-point range, she can't help you. And you still find a way. I think you had to come from behind too on top of that.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that run? And how surprised were you that amidst all the adversity, you were able to pull off the comeback?
During the game, I was definitely focused on just keeping calm, because I know like when people get nervous, they get really frantic, and we didn't want any mistakes to happen. So I just try to keep as calm as possible, try to keep everybody else calm. And Tatum definitely stepped up that game, and she just was the biggest role that game, and it was just crazy. And everybody kind of did what they had to do to win. And it was definitely scary when Mia went out, because everybody was like, oh snap, Mia's out of the game. Like, what do we do now? But Tatum stepped up, and everybody just kept going, and nobody stopped, and nobody was like really nervous. So
Something tells me a few of those players might have substituted another word for snap, but probably not safe to say on TV, right?
yeah.
Okay, how quickly did those jitters turn into excitement when, as you said, Tatum stepped it up and Minnehaha just kept going? I wasn't able to attend that game in person, but I was following it online. So as those jitters turn into determination, how did the mood change? I'm guessing it went from, well, it probably went from, oh snap, we're in trouble, to, oh snap, we could win this thing.
Yeah. After, we got a couple plays, I know Tana hit a big three. After we just kept getting the energy kept going up, and then we just kept getting more excited. But at the same time, we got to calm down. But I knew it. I was definitely excited seeing the clock run down and seeing that we were up. And I just try to stay focused, play good defense and not foul. But it definitely just got more intense, but at the same time, just more exciting.
What do you remember from the celebration? The clock hits 0. Of course, everybody storms the court, but to win the championship when maybe you weren't expected to. I think Minnehaha was seeded, but with Class A and 2A, I've always said it can be tricky to guess who's going to come out on top because a lot of the schools are scattered around the state. So it's hard to get a clear picture of what the field would look like. But you won it, and that's all that matters in the end. What do you remember from the wake of that accomplishment?
I remember having the ball. I think I just had a rebound at the last second, just throwing the ball in the air and everybody, running towards each other, jumping, and the ceremony. But the biggest thing I remember is afterwards going in the locker room, everybody spraying water on each other. It was just an amazing moment, and definitely one of the greatest moments of my life. It was just really fun.
Well, we've discussed one of the greatest moments in your life, but Talia, I think I'm about to bring up perhaps one of the more embarrassing moments, because we just got another comment from your father, who we've been talking about. I wonder if he's like Beetlejuice. You mention him enough times and he'll show up on your comment section. But here's what he says. Talia's the total package. Very smart, big heart, tough, clutch, fast, inside game, 3-point range, and so much more potential to grow. Heart emoji. And Latoya, my broadcast partner, who you probably have seen call some games, says, great scouting report. and Talia, your father wants to let you know that he went to Boston, not Boston College. There's a rivalry, I think, between those two schools. So, we don't want to have that kind of mix. It's all right. It's okay. I knew what you were saying. Well,
I went to Boston University.
Yes, Boston, not Boston College. It's sort of like what is? Well, it's like the sort of pseudo rivalry that Josh and Matt have when it comes to their NFL allegiance. Matt's a big Vikings fan. Josh grew up in Wisconsin, big Packers fan. That is their biggest source of disagreement. Outside of that, though, great relationship, as you've seen and as I have seen over the years too.
Yeah.
We're getting scouting reports all over the place. So here's what Latoya has to add. Minnehaha is stacked this year. Having Graham and the other additions, it's going to be hard to get past them. They also have an all-around great program, solid leadership on and off the court. I'm looking forward to seeing you compete this year. So my broadcast partner, Latoya, she can't wait to see you again. In fact, you opened the season against Maranatha, where her daughter played.
Oh, I did not know her daughter played. Will she be broadcasting there? Is she going to be in person, or is she going to be over?
I haven't determined that yet. I'll be at home because I'm laying low until I can get vaccinated with the pandemic. But continuing with the scouting report, your coach has chimed in as well. What he has to say about you, the team captain, as you said. Talia leads by example. Blessed to be able to work with her. Talia, you've got quite the fan club.
I see that.
Now, last season, you weren't able to make it to the state tournaments. Concordia got the better end that time around. And actually, I think it's cool to see how Matt and his support network, because he had Tiffany Stubbs there in that one season, how his move was a win for both schools. Concordia was able to build with what they have, and he's been able to continue the success and the tradition that Minnehaha established with all those years under Josh Thorough. But last year, you didn't get the section championship, but you made some strides in your own game. You went from 3.5 points per game to 9.3, 5.2 rebounds. You had a double-double in there. So you had some opportunities to showcase your growth and your evolution. How would you say your leadership, your confidence evolved from your freshman to sophomore season?
Here's Telia Graham.
I think confidence in like my shot and driving more to the basket and being more aggressive. And there's more plays that were like for me, so I could actually score. And just like Mia being like the what great vision she has, like seeing up the court and stuff like that. It was just building up my confidence, building my shot, and just knowing like hey, I can drive too. Like I can do this and that, and just like developing those skills more, so I can just like have more confidence during game time.
On the subject of Mia, her mother has just dropped a comment on our Facebook live stream where she says, Telia is an amazing young woman and player. Can't wait to watch her and the rest of the team this season. Like I said, you have a big fan club. I don't know how you're taking all this, but from what I'm reading, at least if the Facebook comments are an indication, you've done a lot to become an endearing figure in the Minnehaha basketball community and beyond. A lot of folks recognize your game there, Telia.
I'm really excited.
You seem a little more sheepish than maybe some of your coaches and friends are, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not easy when you're the subject of attention, and I can speak from experience. I know I get the same way when people start dropping nice things about me. I'm like, oh, thanks. You're like, what do you do? And so even though you didn't get that section championship, of course, we found out there'd be no way to know if you would have had a chance to repeat with what happened in regards to the pandemic. But what did you enjoy most about that sophomore season and getting that opportunity to showcase your growth?
Definitely just, like starting was really huge for me because that was the first year I started on varsity. And I don't know, I felt just like a lot more confidence in what I was doing and playing basketball and playing with my team. And I felt like I just grew into like a bigger role on the team than I already had. So I think just like the best about my sophomore season was just my confidence and how much it grew, and like how that leads to like my junior season now and being a bigger leader on the team. So it just definitely just like correlates and bounces off each other, and like you can see the growth from like my freshman year to my sophomore year, and to now I can just see myself watching like even me playing in like 7th grade, just watching the things I was doing and like how that developed to the things I'm doing now. It's just exciting to see where I'm at now and what I can do.
How do you think that prepared you for taking on the captain's assignment? As you said, you're one of the older figures now for Minnehaha Academy. You leading this group of young guns with Addie Mack and Sharita Lewis, who goes by Tiny, and Ania Rubin. She's eligible to play. She comes from a prestigious basketball family with her father being a former Mr. Basketball winner. You're going to be one of those folks guiding, steering the ship. What excites you about the captain's assignment?
Excites me just like being a leader. It's definitely different for me because like I'm not the most talkative person, but I definitely get along well with everyone on the team. So it's just really easy chemistry. But I'm learning how I want to be a leader, and I know with my energy, that's like been the biggest thing growing throughout the years. That, of course, I don't talk as much, but I have energy on the court. And I think that's like the biggest thing that I have. But just like growing into like the talking role and like talking to the younger players and like, hey, maybe you should try this, or like, you should back cut on this. It's definitely been easier with the leaders I've already had. Like I said, like Mia and Tana and Nevaeh and all of them and Avery. Just the way they've talked to me, I definitely have a sense of how I want to come off to people and how I want to be a better leader.
On the subject of leadership, Talia, here's what Latoya, had to say, or did, was just saying, look at, noting the fan section you have, but complimenting your discipline, hard work, determination. And she says, we're definitely rooting for you. And I would not be in a position to disagree. A lot of folks out there rooting for you. Something I'm curious about, Talia, as you move forward with this junior season, whatever it looks like, have you fielded any offers from colleges? What are your plans there?
Ooh. Not really, but I'm definitely I'm gonna keep working hard and doing what I can, and I feel like that will come when it comes. I won't get down on it. I know my dad, he talks about like not even getting offers till his like senior season and then committing and stuff like that. But I know if I just like keep working hard and I keep doing what I have to do, like that will come. And I believe in that.
Well, and there is no race. I know a lot of seniors or juniors had committed ahead of time, almost as a safety precaution in case they can't get out there. But you keep working at it, or as Latoya put it, your confidence, discipline, and preparation will continue to propel you. So as long as you continue to exhibit those facets, I have a feeling colleges will be looking for you. Who knows? Maybe even Boston will give you a call. Latoya is curious though, if you could pick, if you didn't have to worry about offers, anything like that, what are some options? What are some places that you would like to see yourself in terms of attending college? What would you like to see yourself in?
And attending college, I've looked up some colleges and like I've looked at things. And the biggest thing for me is just like where I would fit in the best and like where I would feel comfortable. Me and my parents have talked about like going to, Black colleges and stuff like that. So it's definitely a thing I need to develop more and just like look at more. But I've always like had this thing with like colleges in Texas and stuff like that. I've just really been looking all over, and I don't really know yet, but I definitely will. I will come to terms a little bit.
In due time, I'm sure we'll find out where you're going. And as you were saying
Yeah.
about your father, let's not forget Mia didn't commit until after her senior season before
Yeah.
she settled on Dartmouth. So this is your pace that you get to set. But when you're talking about HBCUs, I think is what you were referencing. I do have a few friends who are graduates of HBCUs. One of them led her team in scoring the 2 seasons she was there. So maybe after we're done, I can let you know about some of those contacts, because I can't speak from experience. I did not attend an HBCU, but I know some who did. And Latoya is saying she knows a few HBCUs that you would fit in nicely as well. But again, this is your story, your journey, so you set the pace. But I think it's encouraging to hear that you're setting your guidelines, if you will. And we have another comment from Ashley Day, who I think is related to you in some fashion, where she said, Talia is a very humble individual. The athleticism is there. Everything will fall into place. So proud of you. You're like, how do I take that? I'm just
I,
reading, Talia, I'm just reading these as they come in. I'm not making this up. Like, I'm just reading them as they drop on my Facebook feed. But I'm impressed at the number of fans you have. And I think you're proof that you don't have to be the leading scorer to win over parents and fellow basketball fans.
yeah.
So, Talia, I'm curious. There's another comment. I'll get to that in a moment. But throughout your athletic career to this point, what would you say is your most exciting moment and your most embarrassing moment?
Ooh. I definitely know one of my most embarrassing moments. Uh, One of them was during, I think it was during the Maranatha game last year. Me and Kate like kind of like tripped on each other, and that was just like it was like embarrassing. But there was another time during practice, I was playing defense, and like someone like they're making a pass to like the player I was guarding, and just like smacked me dead in like the side of my face. So there's been like some embarrassing stuff, like maybe like kicking the ball once or twice during a game. But the most exciting was definitely during the Concordia game my freshman year, and in the state tournament win. Those two, yeah.
Talia, I'm sensing a theme because you're referencing games that I happen to cover. Are you trying to butter my bread or something?
Maybe.
Because the Maranatha game, I remember being there. You won handily, so I don't remember that moment of you tripping out with Mia, I think. But I'm going, wait a second. Did you just go back and watch all my film to pick moments? Or
Nah, I watch myself a little during the season.
and did you list your most exciting moments? Or I'm just trying to make sure. I think you did. I just want to be sure about that.
Yeah, during our state tournament win, and then the Concordia game freshman year.
That's what I thought. Just wanted to be sure. And I've gotten to know a little more about you as well through the breakdown book, where I do a lot of my research. And among your hobbies, Talia, I learned about this last year. I understand you're quite the painter.
Yeah, I do. I enjoy painting a lot. Yeah.
How long have you taken up that hobby?
Definitely since I was young. I was either mostly drawing when I was younger, but I definitely grown into like painting, even though it wasn't that great when I was younger. But I've gotten better, and it's just really just a calm activity for me that I could do for hours and just pass time.
Well, Talia, don't sell yourself short. I don't think you were, as talented a basketball player as you are now when you were young either. These
That's
things
true.
take time. Do you have any artwork that you'd be able to show, or is that stored somewhere?
Um, I don't right now. If I was at my mom's house, I would definitely show you. But um, I did have some paintings like during like the first quarantine we had. That's when I painted the most. I busted out like 15 paintings. I was painting like every day. That's how like bored I was. But I definitely uh, wasted a lot of time painting early during quarantine.
I don't know if I would call that wasting time, but all right. I keep going back to, of course, when I found out you were a painter and I was making Bob Ross references. Oh, Ashley is telling me the entire house has her artwork. I'm thinking here's an opportunity for you, Talia, when you're not playing basketball. If you've got a YouTube channel or some way, or Facebook or Instagram, just record yourself putting all these paintings together, do a time lapse or something, and then you could build up a huge following and do a little side hustle in addition to basketball, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I've thought about it. I don't know. It's something I would look into though.
Well, look at how far you progressed with basketball. I could only imagine the fans you would attract when they see the work you put into painting. I know your father had some nice things to say about it when I talked to him about it last year.
Yeah, I bet he did.
I could tell it's a little harder for you to take compliments, and
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, no, I've been there. It's hard when you're in the spotlight, especially when you don't think of it with the gratitude you've expressed for your coaches and your fellow teammates. You know, you don't see the sport or what you do as making it about yourself. So I understand your feeling, but I think it also highlights the team player that you are, and why your coaches and your parents and all are the mutual friends have had so many good things to say about you on the live stream. They understand that you're a good player, but you have this idea that if the team succeeds, then you succeed with it.
Yeah.
The other thing I learned about you more recently, you have an affinity for scary movies, as I
I
understand it.
definitely do. I,
Do you have a favorite in the bunch?
I do. Definitely the Saw series. I've probably watched each of them at least like 3 times each. That's definitely just been my favorite series. I got that from my dad, actually. But scary movies, I just grow. Of course, when I was like younger, I was scared of them, but I've just grown to love them. I just find them um, really fun to watch.
Are there any other hobbies or interests that you have that people wouldn't necessarily know about if they met you for the first time?
Um, hmm, I would say I like writing a lot. I would say that I do a lot of writing during my free time, um, and stuff like that. I've written like a whole bunch of poems that really no one gets to hear and stuff like that. I'm really big on like making things and being really creative. That's really a big thing that I really don't express during school sometimes, just like having like the format that we do and like having the rules that we do. So when I'm when I have my free time, I definitely like to think out of the box and just like I do a lot of calming activities.
Talia, I see a potential path for you now with your writing interests and your painting. Like, I could see you developing your own book series if you wanted, with your writing and illustrations. How long have you been writing poetry?
Ooh, definitely for a couple of years now. I think I started at my freshman year, actually, like writing poems and stuff like that. Before then, I was just kind of just, just writing random stuff, but the poems kind of came with that.
I mean, I would say poetry kind of is writing random stuff, but you're incorporating it into a
Yeah,
theme. Well, it's like even writing articles, which I did for so many years. You're making
yeah,
something out of nothing and just organizing your thoughts. But you said you haven't published them or released them in any public format. I'm wondering, Talia, would there be a point where you would consider reciting poems, whether it's a poetry bash or you're writing? Like, what would it take? What would it take for you to showcase your work? And I don't mean that to pressure you. It's just, I'm curious and it's fascinating. And I think of Amani McGee Stafford, who used her poetry as part of her healing process while she was at Texas. And that led to several opportunities that had nothing to do with athletics. So I could see a similar path for you.
it definitely take me just like being more comfortable with like reading my poetry to like even my family and stuff like that, just coming out just a little bit more when it comes to my writing, just because it's so personal to me. So it'd be definitely different coming out of my shell and like expressing um, my writings to public audience.
So if my presumption is correct, you're writing your poetry. It's an exercise that allows you to organize and release your feelings, since you talk about how personal these writings are for you. Does
Yeah.
that help you when you're going through tough situations?
It definitely does. It's a really good outlet. When I have things on my mind that I like maybe don't want to talk about, um, it's definitely just a good thing that I can always go back to when when I'm having a rough time, or like I just need some downtime or some time to myself.
Well, Talia, I think it's a very encouraging and productive way to release your feelings and share your thoughts. And I would say, whenever you feel ready to share them, I know I'll be looking forward to reading or listening to these works of writing that you have that you have constructed, because the written word is a powerful medium, as we have seen over the years. And her video signal just disappeared. There she is. Were you trying to pull a screen on me?
No.
No pick and roll, no screens, anything like that? There was a question that Latoya dropped a few minutes ago that I wanted to touch on in regards to your upcoming season. It is a condensed season, 18 games, and we'll see what happens. Any game could be your last, depending on what happens with the virus. But she wanted to say, what team or player are you looking forward to matching up against this year the most?
Oh, looking at definitely Yvonne again. I would definitely say Concordia playing since we did lose the last time we played them. Definitely a lot of excitement and a lot of like, passion goes to just ready to beat them, you know.
And another comment just dropped. Talia, if you blush again, my apologies. But this one comes from Nicole Love, who says, Talia is such a bright, smart, hard worker. She is an amazing girl who strives to do her best as a team player. She loves basketball. I'm so proud of her and love watching her.
Thank you.
Going back to the writing, the poetry, and your talent as a wordsmith, as you alluded to, and I think everyone can attest to in their own way, the last year has been challenging for everyone, with the pandemic, with the moments of civil unrest that happened after George Floyd. And just a few days ago, insurrection at the Capitol, a lot of things that have put us on edge, a lot of tension. And so I imagine, whether it's fellow players like yourself or adults, no matter the age or where you come from, there is a lot of stress and nerves going around. You've taken up writing and poetry as a way to alleviate those feelings. So, for anyone out there, and you can speak with your own experience more generally, I'll let you guide the direction. But what would you have to say to others who might be feeling hard or down on themselves right now?
I'll definitely say just, find something that keeps you busy and that you love, and just like keep going with that, and like never give up on um, stuff that brings you joy, because that stuff is really going to help you later on. And I'd say that when it comes to like hard times, you just people have to know like how to openly express and talk about what's going on in their life, and which is a really hard thing, but it's a great tool to have when it comes to stuff that's going on in the world and stuff that's happening to you personally. Just being able to express how you're feeling and how things make you feel is just a great tool to have in life.
Are there any writers or poets that you take inspiration from, or is your work more freestyle? You come up with it. I'm just curious, with your background in writing and poetry, who you take inspiration from now that you've had some time to put your thoughts into words the way you do.
Definitely Edgar Allan Poe. He's been my favorite poet since eighth grade when I got to learn about him. But his poems are just really different, and they kind of fit in with like the scary movie thing I type love. So that goes really well together. I just like love reading his work, and it's always really interesting to read.
Well, whenever you feel ready to share that work, I will be looking forward to it, Talia. But I'm curious, with your fascination with scary movies and your admiration for Edgar Allan Poe, one of the most recognized names in that field, how hard is it to pull off a jump scare on you?
I would say pretty hard. It would pretty to like get me to scream or something like that. Maybe I'll be a little frightened like in the inside, but I definitely would not show it. It would be pretty hard to try to get a jump scare on me. I'm always ready.
Well, conversely, have you ever tried pranking your teammates in the AU circuit or in high school because you have that tolerance for scary things? I don't know where your teammates stand, but have you ever thought about pranking them like that?
Not really. I've got people have tried to get me on the jump scare a couple times, like during the season. Like walking out during practice and stuff like that. People try to scare you. Just some weird stuff that happens during the season, but I've never really tried to personally.
Well, someone close to you is suggesting that something that can get you startled is spiders.
Yeah, definitely. I hate all insects, all spiders. That's not my thing at all.
I know what you mean. Uh, and I'm going to out myself as a nerd in this instance, but I've said, yeah, I'm not a big fan of insects or spiders. It's like if they were more like the insects from the Pokemon franchise, then it's like, yeah, that if they were like those creatures, that'd be more cool, but they're not. We don't have spiders that can shoot electricity or fire or anything like that. But I think I said I might be the only sports guy willing to make Pokemon references in my broadcasts. But you have your scary movies and Edgar Allan Poe. I have pop culture fandom. How we come together, I don't know, but it works, so I won't question it. Now, I've been teasing you a little bit about some of your career opportunities with your writing, your poetry, your painting, and it sounds like you have this background of creative expression. I'm sensing that theme. But on a serious note, obviously you have a couple years of high school left before you make your way through college, but what are some avenues you could see yourself pursuing in the adult world when you embark on a career path?
Um, I definitely thought about. I always wanted to just like stay within like a sports way, whatever that may be. Either like a athletic trainer or a coach or something like that. I always want to stay like connected with sports somehow and have that in my life, whatever career I choose. But I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things out there for me to choose from, and it's just me trying to just narrow them down and see which one is going to be the best fit for me.
Who knows? Maybe you'll end up getting into sports writing.
Maybe.
On the subject of leadership that we've also been discussing throughout this podcast, how do you think your role as a captain this year, what you've accomplished as an athlete at Minnehaha Academy, what you will accomplish going forward, how do you think that will help present yourself and help you grow as a leader, not just in sports, but as a citizen? Because folks like you, as we navigate these uncertain times, and uncertain may be a light way of putting it, but people like yourself are going to be part of that group of future leaders who will help us navigate whatever obstacles come our way?
Basketball definitely, like being a leader in basketball kind of helps with talking to people and like communication. So going forward, that definitely like a big thing, like communicating with people and how you communicate with people. So I would say just like communication going forward and my grown up years, and hard work, because um, people dedicate a lot of their time to what they love and what they want to do with their life, just like either if it's sports or if it's not sports. And that's just a way you can connect with people either way.
Now, I do have a curiosity that I would like to explore while you're here. Have you ever had a one-on-one matchup with your father? And if not, who do you think would emerge victorious?
Okay. Oh, there's definitely been a lot of one-on-one matchups with us, going to the gym or like playing outside. Um, I've definitely won a couple of times, and he had definitely won a couple of times. But it's definitely a big rivalry we have because we're both sore losers. We both don't want to lose. So he definitely does not take it easy on me whenever we do play. So it's just really it's really fun though. Still.
And I would like to think because of that, that has helped you develop as well. If he
Yeah.
went easy on you, what would you learn? So, and I can speak to being a sore loser. I don't like to lose. That's kind of why I stay away from playing. I'm like, I would rather cover the games because then I don't feel bad about making a mistake since I can't control what's happening. But oh, I'll have to check one of those matchups. Maybe we can get that on film and just see how intense those battles are with you and your father. But that is amusing. Uh, and it sounds like it's an even split. So the two of you can give each other quite the battle.
Yeah, definitely.
And we've covered a lot of ground, but is there anything else about your journey, your story, whether it involves basketball or all the other avenues that you pursue in sports, outside of sports? Anything else you'd like to add about your story?
Um, Not really. Just like I would just like to say with becoming an athlete and like growing into learning myself and becoming older, um, don't don't like take um, your memories and like the experience you have for granted. Definitely try to learn from them, and definitely just try to be a better person when it comes to adversity and learn from your past mistakes. And that's like the biggest thing I've learned growing up.
Well put. And what can we expect from you this junior season? Are we going to see some double doubles, maybe a triple double? What are some goals? Obviously, if there's a state tournament, you'd love to be a part in that. But what
Yeah.
are some items on that to-do list that you would like to cross off for your junior season?
For my junior season, definitely would like to see some double doubles for me. I believe I can do it, and I've developed my skills enough, and I've learned a lot and a lot of new moves that I can't wait to put on display and just play my game. And I definitely feel more comfortable with the ball in my hand and bringing the ball up and my speed and everything. So definitely, there's a lot to come this season for being my junior season.
Well, Ashley is saying dunk. I think she's suggesting that you could dunk this year.
Oh, um, maybe I'll try. I don't think so. Not yet, though.
Well, I happen to know a fellow junior who is working on her vertical and can touch the rim. So maybe I'll get the two of you together and she can give you some pointers.
Maybe.
I have my connections. And amidst all of the changes and the weirdness that is this winter, I did notice yesterday that one tradition at Minnehaha still remains, and that is your membership in the Donut Club.
Yes. Yesterday was a really good practice, and I think that's the best thing about Saturday practices is afterwards, we all get together and we get to have donuts and like chocolate milk and stuff. And donuts are always good, so that's really a plus.
I got a little taste of that last year at a game. It wasn't a Saturday game, but I remember I think your father had some spare donuts, and so he offered me one. So I guess I would have to call myself an honorary member of the Donut Club because I don't take up those Saturday practices, so I don't get to partake in those donuts. But I would like to think I have an honorary membership with the Donut Club. But Talia, I have to give you props for sharing a lot about yourself. As you were saying, you're not the biggest talker, and it's not easy to go on camera or to have a mic in your face, as you've seen when I cover Minnehaha games. But you have a lot to offer, and not just in basketball. I think you're going to have some folks supporting you with your writing, your poetry, and your artwork as more people become aware of those skills. And as one of your family members puts it, it's already part of an entire household or part of the decorative arrangement. So you're making a bigger impact than you might even realize.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, and I can't wait to see how that impact will influence not only yourself, but those around you, whether it's playing for the Minnehaha Academy girls basketball team or what you decide to take up beyond sports. I would have to agree with all of the viewers who have said the future is bright for you just based on this conversation. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to offer, Talia.
I'm looking forward to see what comes too. I'm really excited for the season too.
I think a lot of us are. I can't wait for games to be played, even if I have to do it remotely. I've said I'm happy to do highlight reels, sizzles, highlight reports like you'd see on Sports Center. I'll find ways to stay involved until it's safe for me to get back out there and partake in donuts again at Minnehaha games. Well, once again, thank you, Talia, and best of luck this season. I hope you do well, and I hope you can stay safe so everyone gets the opportunity to play and hopefully play out the season.
Thank you for having me on. It's been really fun and really good to open up and, talk about basketball and talk about other things.
That's why I do this podcast. You are an athlete, but you're not robots. You have feelings, you have emotions, you have so much more about you than points, rebounds, and the records would suggest. And I'm glad you got to share a glimpse of that with us, Telia Graham, who you can see at Minnehaha Academy starting Thursday. That is when the season begins. Again, there are limits on attendance due to coronavirus protocols. But one way or another, you can catch her on the floor with the Red Hawks as they try to claim another state tournament championship in Class 2A. They are the most recent champions going back to the 2019 tournament. And that Red Hawks group is going to be a lot of fun to watch. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode of this podcast, just contact us on social media at @BMikePeden on Twitter or Instagram. All you need is a good story, and we'd be happy to share it. So until next time, thanks for watching.